1 in 4 people in the UK will die from cancer. There are many reasons for this, but there is one that some people would rather you didn't know about. Electromagnetic radiation that comes from the Earth could potentially be responsible for many of the health problems facing the modern world. It is called geopathic stress, and its adverse health effects have largely been dismissed by modern science. But over the past century, we have gradually developed technologies that give off a similar radiation, a link that until now has never been established.
We have done several tests for different crowds. I've done them for three different cancer organisations now, and in all cases have showed up with 100% accuracy where the people have been sleeping, that they actually were sleeping over geopathic stress lines.
The consequences of geopathic stress becoming common knowledge are far-reaching.
I found I could locate these lines very easily, and in particular where there were serious ones, in other words where there were serious lines of geopathic stress, you will always have or have had serious problems in that bed. Alan McGuire from South East Radio asked me would I go on radio, speak about this. I said no initially because I didn't want to, because neighbours of mine didn't know I was doing this, and friends of mine, and you know yourself, you go around with 2 pieces of wires telling people to move beds around, it wasn't acceptable, like you were considered to be a little bit of a loony. I was hesitant to do it, but because I felt so strongly about it, I said right, that I would do it.
I was very cynical, and the first thing I did was I went out to record houses with him. I also found out a few houses where I brought Brendan to them where he didn't even know where we were going, didn't know the name, didn't know the location. I picked him up and brought him from his car to an address he had no idea where we were going, just so I could test him out. And his accuracy when it came to defining what the problems were in the household, all based on his knowledge of geopathic stress, was staggering.
This is the home of Larry and Mari Devereaux. Larry's first wife died of breast cancer, and now Mari has been diagnosed with the same problem. We followed Brendan to their house to see if geopathic stress could provide an explanation. As we went around the outside of the house, Brendan found 2 strong lines, one of which ran straight through their bed.
I'd never ever would have dreamt for the second time around. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
It really is more than a coincidence.
Yeah.
You know, to say like never strikes twice, but unfortunately did hear that.
My first wife had that operation in 1981 with the same operation.
Same complaint.
Same complaint, yeah. And we slept in the same, not the same bed, but you know what I mean?
Same
room.
Same position.
Same position in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have diabetes.
Yeah.
Because the centre of the line is actually coming up through your stomach.
Yeah.
And up across you then like that, Mary. And the width then takes your whole upper body, and it takes your upper body. You know, so you'd want to move it actually further than that, would.
Yes.
Brendan's work is based on the findings of Gustav Freyer von Pohl. This wealthy German baron provided the first conclusive study on geopathic stress in 1929. In the presence of the local mayor, he dowsed an entire German town called Vilsbiburg and marked all the lines on a large map. Searching through the death records, von Pohl discovered that the beds of all the cancer victims were directly over geopathic stress lines. This was the first time a study clearly demonstrated a link between exposure to electromagnetic radiation and ill health. But whilst the German Central Committee for Cancer Research took this seriously, elsewhere in the scientific world, the existence of geopathic stress was largely ignored. Its origins were not widely understood. But in 1954, the first scientific explanation came from a German scientist called Schumann. He discovered that the Earth vibrates at a very low frequency, which creates waves of electromagnetic radiation that bounce between the surface of the Earth and the outer layers of the atmosphere. Schumann waves, as they are now called, are beneficial to us. All life has evolved within this natural energy field. But any changes to it can have serious implications for our health. The primary cause of this are the thousands of underground streams that flow beneath the surface of the Earth. As the water flows in underground caverns, electrons are chipped off the water molecules, creating large and often powerful electric fields that radiate out into the atmosphere, changing or distorting the Schumann waves. And yet every day we go about our lives completely unaware of its existence. We'd been impressed by Brendan's accuracy at Larry and Mari's house, and had set up another house for him to dowse. We felt that we had to test him, so neither of us knew anything about the house or the occupant. As before, Brendan began by dowsing from the outside.
There's one in here. We have one line now going in there. Okay. So there's a geopathic stress line coming this way, down across here, going over and in that way. Okay. Here we have another one. Now, second one here running parallel, coming this way, coming up across this way. Okay. I've been divining now, or dowsing as it's called in the continent, for the last 6 years. Yes, I've tested houses for a number of doctors. They all, well not all, most of them agree with what I'm doing and encourage you to continue doing it. Some of them are very convinced now because they actually have told patients to get their houses tested. Right. Now, there's another one. Right. That's going to run right up through the length of the house.
Alright.
Right. Which means that where that crosses with the other two lines are
going to be a strong point.
It's going to create two vortexes, yeah,
Right.
where to cross.
Right.
Okay.
I have been sleeping here almost 5 years now. I mean, he was spot on and even from outside the house he had picked up on. I mean, I knew from the moment he said, the very first line he picked up on and pointed where it was going in the house. I mean, I knew I was in trouble because it was exactly crossing across my bed.
This is the width of that line. Okay, so that line comes out here.
Right, so it's a couple
Going
of
up.
foot wide.
2.5 feet wide, going straight up that way. Okay, so that's coming right up. Say if you sleep on this side of the bed, it'll be coming up through your left side and right up through.
I'm barely over a month back from the hospital. I've had a very major operation called a neck dissection, where they take out all the muscles of your neck and the glands.
Now, that's the width of that line, right? So that line comes out, the outside of that line is there, with the centre in here, in this area, and then the other part goes into the wall, okay? So the actual vortex is missing where you sleep right now. Right?
Well, not by enough.
Not by enough, no.
Well,
no.
you see, I did actually sleep in against that wall.
The head of your bed was in further?
Yes, the head of my bed was in further, and because if I woke during the night, I was bashing my head off the thing. I moved it out, you see, so I'd have that little bit of... So, I mean, I'm actually only about 6 months out from the wall.
Right, and when you got sick, was your bed actually in against the wall?
I'm possibly slightly safer now in the last 6 months where I was, but because the vortex is there, I mean, where that whole bed is not good.
I am not a threat to anybody apart from maybe the pharmaceutical companies. Like, if you don't believe there's any difference in sleeping here and sleeping over this side, it can do you no harm if you say there's nothing difference in it. But like, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases where I can show from moving a bed from one side of a room to another can have serious implications on your health.
We contacted over 50 medical research organisations to find out if they knew of any research in this area. Of the 3 replies we received, none claimed to have heard of the subject, and one scientist in particular took the opportunity to tell us what she thought of geopathic stress and dowsing. Brendan also tried contacting many research groups. He sent case studies to the Irish Cancer Society, and after several months of waiting for a response, decided to phone them directly.
I said to him, why had you not been in touch? I said that, I said, if you want to conduct any research in this area, I said, I'll willingly do any test that you want to do. I said, if you want to pick a house where somebody has cancer, don't tell me where it is. and don't tell me who's the cancer. And I said, I'll test the house free of charge. I said, I don't want my name disclosed, and I don't want any money for it. I said, I'm not looking for credit. I said, all I want you to do is to fund some research in this area. She said to me that, do you do this with 2 pieces of wires? I said, I do. And she says, that's very unscientific. She said that this has to be proved by a panel of doctors, and she says, a panel of doctors never going to prove that.
Despite the lack of organisations willing to take this seriously, we found one exception. Brendan took us to meet Josephine Casey, founder of North Wexford Cancer Group. As one of Ireland's largest fundraisers for cancer research, Josephine has campaigned for further studies into geopathic stress, but to no avail. She first had her house tested as part of a live show for South East Radio.
I was diagnosed with cancer in June 98. I had breast cancer, grade 3. It's a serious grade. It was at an advanced stage. When Alan McGuire contacted me, I had reservations. I said he's some kind of a quack. Now, I'd seen it done as a child for water, somebody diving for water, and I said, how can he possibly, how can there be a link, or how can he possibly tell? So when he did this house, okay, I was, the lines weren't strong here, but when he went to my old house and he was just 100% accurate, I was left flabbergasted. And all I regretted was why the hell I hadn't got out of that house before then. A number of people on the road, or in the general area really, in a radius of a mile of my house, 18 had died from cancer. And in one house, there was 3 sisters who died with breast cancer over a period of 2 years, and 2 brothers died all within a 5-year period with cancer. That would be less than a mile from my old house. And to me, that's a frightening statistic.
We met Jimmy, the only surviving member of the family. From outside the house, Brendan identified 2 strong areas of geopathic stress. It's impossible to say whether this was the cause of the deaths, but to us it seemed more than coincidence that all 5 people who died had slept over those 2 areas. The only person whose bed was not on a line was Jimmy's. A short distance away, Josephine took us to her old road. Almost every house had someone suffering with cancer. Almost every house had strong geopathic stress lines running through them. Even more frightening is that in a nearby parish, every single house has at least 1 person suffering with cancer. One thing is certain, incidents of cancer on this scale cannot be explained by current medical knowledge.
You know, I was a bit sceptical in the beginning because you hear so many things, and when you've been so ill, it's just so hard to believe that, you know, a line under your bed can make a difference of life or death. I mean, I would be prepared to do anything to try and convince, everybody that this test is worth having done.
There are plenty of things that could be done to minimise exposure, but the biggest challenge is to get the power utilities and the regional electricity companies to accept that they have a problem. And like the mobile phone industry and the military, they are simply in a state of denial, which is of course against the public interest.
We've come from an Earth mystery to a technological nightmare. And with billions of dollars at stake, admitting that geopathic stress is a problem would also be an admission that perhaps modern technology is killing us.